We know North Dakota is a great place to live and thrive. But our state can also serve as a launch pad to send a person halfway across the world. The Great Pyramid of Giza has stood for more than 45 centuries, its colossal blocks rising against the Egyptian desert like a riddle carved in stone. It is the last surviving wonder of the ancient world, a monument to human ambition, engineering, and perhaps to secrets long forgotten. For centuries, explorers, scholars, and dreamers have tried to unlock its mysteries. Were the passages we know today all there is? Or does the pyramid hide something deeper? Chambers, tunnels, and vaults that still wait in darkness. Few people on Earth have spent as much of their lives trying to answer that question as Dr. Mark Lehner. One of the most respected Egyptologists alive, Lehner has devoted decades to excavating, mapping, and analyzing every inch of the Giza Plateau. His research has changed how we see the pyramid builders, transforming myths into evidence. Yet in the twilight of his career, Lehner has spoken words that sound more like confession than scholarship. What he found beneath the Great Pyramid may not only reshape archaeology, but also challenge what we thought we knew about history itself. This is Mark Lehner's story and his stunning admission. To understand the weight of Mark Lehner's words, you must first know who he is. Born in North Dakota in 1950, Lehner did not begin as a mainstream academic. In fact, his earliest interest in Egypt came not from university halls, but from the writings of Edgar Cayce, the so-called sleeping prophet, whose followers believed in Atlantis and hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx. In the 1970s, Lehner traveled to Egypt under the sponsorship of the Cayce Foundation, intending to find proof of Cayce's predictions. But instead of finding Atlantis, Lehner found archaeology. Slowly, his path diverged from fringe speculation and led into rigorous science. He trained at the University of Chicago, one of the world's most respected centers of Egyptology, and earned his reputation through meticulous excavation. Where others saw mystery, Lehner sought evidence. Layers of stone, fragments of pottery, workers' homes buried beneath sand. By the 1980s, Lehner was no longer seen as a seeker of myths, but as one of Egyptology's leading authorities. He became the director of the Giza Plateau Mapping Project, a massive effort to document every structure, shaft, and block surrounding the Great Pyramid complex. His crowning discovery was the lost city of the pyramids, the workers' village that showed the builders were not slaves as Hollywood once imagined, but skilled laborers housed, fed, and organized by the state. Lehner's career was defined by a dedication to separating legend from fact. And yet, beneath the very stones he studied, the old legends still lingered. From ancient times, whispers of hidden chambers beneath the pyramids have circulated like desert winds. Arab chroniclers such as al-Makki described vaults filled with treasures and texts from the time before the flood. Medieval travelers claimed that the pyramids contained magical secrets, while others believed the structures held vast underground libraries, the so-called Hall of Records. The modern era did little to quiet the speculation. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, explorers blasted holes into the pyramid with explosives, leaving scars still visible today, but finding nothing except dust and disappointment. Even so, the idea of hidden voids refused to die. In the late 20th century, radar scans and seismic surveys began to reveal anomalies, unexplained cavities, irregular heat signatures, and echoes that suggested hollow spaces where solid rock should be. In 2015, the Scan Pyramids project used advanced muon tomography and thermal imaging to probe deeper than ever before. The results were electrifying. Clear evidence of a massive hidden void above the Grand Gallery, as well as strange anomalies at the pyramid's base. Scientists spoke cautiously, but the implication was clear. If these chambers exist, they could contain artifacts untouched for 4,000 years. Papyrus scrolls, aerary objects, or even records of civilizations that predate Egypt itself. For the academic world, such a find could rewrite history. For Egypt, it could ignite new waves of tourism, controversy, and global fascination. And this is where Mark Lehner's own discoveries beneath the Great Pyramid intersect with legend. While he dismissed many wild theories, Lehner quietly admitted that the underground of Giza holds more than scholars have revealed. For decades, Lehner's career appeared to be defined by what he discovered above ground. temples, causeways, workers' villages, but quietly in the shadow of the Great Pyramid. He was also looking below. The Giza Plateau is not just sand and sunlight. Beneath it lies a bedrock foundation carved and altered by the ancients. And it was here underground that Lehner stumbled into what he would later call the subterranean crisis. During his mapping of the plateau in the 1990s and early 2000s, Lehner's team uncovered tunnels and channels cut into the limestone beneath the pyramid complex. Some seemed natural, but others were clearly the work of human hands. One network appeared to be an ancient drainage system, funneling water away from the pyramid's base. But as his team followed the channels deeper, they reached cavities that no modern archaeologist had ever entered. Lehner admitted in an interview years later that these shafts and passages hinted at something far more extensive than anyone had allowed themselves to believe. The pyramid was not just an above-ground structure. It extended downward into a subterranean world the builders had deliberately shaped. One of the most haunting features was the so-called subterranean chamber carved into bedrock directly beneath the pyramid. It was unfinished, rough, and eerie. The chamber connected to a descending passageway that seemed to lead further into darkness. Early explorers dismissed it as abandoned construction, but Lehner's surveys suggested otherwise. To him, the chamber looked less like an accident and more like the entrance to something deeper. "There is more to this plateau underground than we've ever allowed ourselves to admit," Lehner once said. A rare moment when the cautious scientists allowed emotion to pierce through. The crisis was not only archaeological, but personal. For years, Lehner had fought to distance himself from the world of fringe theories, Atlantis, and hidden records. Yet now, beneath the pyramid he had spent his life studying, he saw evidence of hidden spaces, spaces that echoed the very legends he had rejected. What exactly did Lehner see beneath the Great Pyramid? And why has it remained cloaked in silence for so long? To understand the gravity of Lehner's confession, we must examine the physical evidence, the structures, scans, and anomalies that together paint a picture of something unfinished, unexplored, and perhaps deliberately concealed. The pyramid's descending passage is one of the oldest mysteries in Egyptology. It drops deep into the bedrock, ending in the so-called subterranean chamber. Unlike the polished king's chamber or the majestic grand gallery, this chamber is crude, jagged, and incomplete. Why would the ancient builders carve such a space and then abandon it? Was it a symbolic descent into the underworld? Or was it meant to conceal something more practical? Then there are the granite plugs, massive stone blocks wedged into the ascending passage. They were clearly intended to block movement deeper inside the pyramid. What were they protecting? Many scholars argue they were simple security devices against tomb robbers. But combined with the subterranean cavities, they hint at a larger defensive design, guarding not only a king's body, but knowledge sealed away from history. In the 21st century, technology brought new revelations. The Scan Pyramids project from 2015 to 2017 used thermal imaging, man detectors, and radar to probe the pyramid's interior. The results confirmed thermal anomalies, hot and cold spots in the stone, indicating hollow spaces. Even more shocking, Muon's scans revealed a massive void above the Grand Gallery at least 30 meters long. But less publicized were anomalies around the pyramid's base, suggesting that large cavities exist beneath it. Lehner himself acknowledged these results cautiously. He noted that the anomalies could be structural features, but he did not deny that they might represent unknown chambers. While most people know him for the workers' village, Lehner's work also extended into shafts, ramps, and water channels under the plateau. His team found evidence of erosion that suggested water once played a crucial role at Giza, perhaps used in transporting blocks, perhaps in rituals. In several places, they traced the channels into cavities where ground-penetrating radar showed unexplored voids, long before radar and muons. Arab chroniclers like Al-Maksi recorded that vaults lay beneath the pyramids containing treasures and the records of past ages. Other medieval accounts spoke of underground rivers and libraries hidden under the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid. While scholars long dismissed these as legends, the modern evidence of cavities gives these old stories new weight. And then there is the persistent legend of the Hall of Records, said to lie beneath the Sphinx, but sometimes linked to the Great Pyramid. This mythical archive was said to preserve knowledge from before the flood, a repository of civilization's first secrets. Lehner always rejected the literal claim, but in his later interviews, he admitted that some of the shafts beneath the plateau do lead to unexplored cavities. Today, artificial intelligence models of pyramid scans suggest that voids the size of airplane hangars may lie beneath the pyramid's foundation. Yet, Egypt has not excavated them. The official explanation: logistics, preservation, and cost. But critics suspect politics, secrecy, and fear of what might be found. The evidence converges on a single point. The pyramid we know may be only half the story. Its hidden half lies beneath, where Lehner's confession suggests he saw more than he was ever willing to publish. And if the builders of the Great Pyramid carved these hidden tunnels, the question becomes unavoidable. What were they hiding? If Lehner's words are true, then why hasn't the world been told? Why haven't teams of archaeologists swarmed beneath the pyramid to reveal these underground mysteries? The answer lies not only in archaeology, but in politics, economics, and fear. The Egyptian government maintains strict control over all pyramid excavations. No foreign team can simply dig into a new chamber. Every discovery must be approved, supervised, and often restricted. Tourism is Egypt's lifeblood, and the pyramids are its crown jewel. Authorities fear that sensational claims of hidden chambers could trigger waves of pseudo-archaeology, conspiracy theories, and global media frenzy. Better, in their view, to keep anomalies unexplored and unexplained. Throughout his career, Lehner positioned himself as the rational counterweight to wild theories. He frequently debated alternative historians, dismissing claims of Atlantis or alien technology. Yet, in interviews, small cracks appeared. Asked about the underground plateau, Lehner once said, "There are places we simply haven't opened yet." In another, he admitted, "I think there is more below the surface than most realize." These statements, coming from a man so cautious with his reputation, hint at more than academic hedging. When the Scan Pyramids project announced the Big Void, Egyptian officials quickly downplayed it. The Minister of Antiquities called it not a discovery, but merely an anomaly that might be constructional. The chamber has never been excavated. Similarly, thermal anomalies at the base of the pyramid were largely ignored in press releases. In each case, results were rebranded as inconclusive. Some Egyptologists privately worry that opening a hidden chamber could yield texts or artifacts that contradict the accepted timeline of Egyptian history. If a papyrus were found describing advanced knowledge, or worse, a civilization older than Egypt itself, the entire academic foundation of Egyptology could collapse. For a field that has fought so hard to defend itself against pseudo-archaeology, the risk of finding something inexplicable is terrifying. Others take a darker view. Could it be that the chambers already have been entered quietly and their contents kept secret? Could artifacts have been removed to protect religious or political narratives? Though such claims are impossible to prove, the lack of transparency feeds suspicion. Why, skeptics ask, are 21st century Egyptologists still unable to confirm what lies beneath the most studied monument on Earth? For Lehner himself, the suppression is personal. He built his reputation on rejecting pseudoscience. Yet his own work revealed voids that echo the very legends he tried to distance himself from. As he grows older, his comments sound less like guarded academic phrasing and more like a man unburdening himself. His confession is not a declaration of fact, but a whisper that something deeper lies hidden, waiting. And so, beneath the sands of Giza, the silence remains unbroken, but the question is louder than ever. What is Egypt afraid we might find? When we think of the Great Pyramid, we often imagine an isolated monument, a tomb standing alone in the desert. But Mark Lehner taught us to see it as part of a living landscape. He revealed the workers' city, bakeries, barracks, and workshops that turned the construction of the pyramids into a massive national project. He showed us how logistics, engineering, human ambition came together to raise the most enduring structure on Earth. And yet, even as he documented these practical realities, the mystery never went away. Lehner himself admitted that the plateau conceals more than meets the eye. He once told an interviewer, "There are places we simply haven't opened yet." Coming from one of the most sober voices in Egyptology, this was less a throwaway comment and more a quiet confession. In that moment, Leonard became something paradoxical. Both the man who demystified the pyramids and the man who remofied them. His work proved that the pyramids were not built by aliens or Atlanteans. But his admissions suggested that the ancients still guard secrets we have yet to see. This dual legacy may define him more than any single excavation. On one hand, Leonard's scholarship liberated the pyramids from myth. On the other hand, his words pulled us back into the mystery. The sense that beneath the stones lies something greater, something history still hides. Why then has no one gone further? Why have the voids revealed by radar muons and thermal scans not been opened? The answer lies not in stone, but in politics. Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities maintains tight control over Giza. The pyramids are not only monuments, they are symbols of national identity, sources of immense tourism revenue, and lightning rods for controversy. To admit there are sealed chambers beneath them would invite global speculation, conspiracy, and pressure from international groups. Some fear that such revelations could even destabilize the field of Egyptology. It's fueling theories that challenge the accepted timeline of civilization. There are also logistical concerns. The Great Pyramid is fragile. Its blocks weigh tons. Its passages are narrow, and excavating unknown voids risks collapse. Any misstep could damage the last wonder of the ancient world. For officials, the risk of loss far outweighs the lure of discovery. And yet, the barrier is not only physical, it is psychological. To open these chambers would mean confronting the possibility that history is incomplete, that the ancients left us something we are not yet ready to see. For Leonard, a man who lived at the intersection of skepticism and wonder, this may be the greatest barrier of all. So what remains? A whisper, a confession, a suggestion that beneath the pyramid lies something untouched for 4.5 millennia. Mark Leonard may never reveal exactly what he saw or suspected, but his words have shifted the conversation. The Great Pyramid is more than a tomb, more than a monument. It is a riddle that continues to challenge us. Perhaps it hides nothing more than empty stone, a void of architectural necessity. Or perhaps it shelters a lost archive, a hall of records that carries humanity's forgotten story. For now, we are left in the same position as the ancients, standing before a monument that defies complete understanding. Lehner's confession does not give us answers. It gives us something more haunting, questions we cannot ignore. Before he dies, Mark Lenin may be remembered not just as an archaeologist, but as a man who carried the weight of knowledge he could not fully share. And one day, when Egypt finally allows the last secrets to be uncovered, the world may discover whether his whispers were warnings or invitations. Until then, the Great Pyramid waits, silent, unbroken, eternal. The Great Pyramid has always been more than stone. To stand at its base is to feel time compress, to know that thousands of years ago, hands laid each block with a purpose that still eludes us. Mark Leonard, after decades of study, stripped away some of the myths, but he never silenced the mystery. His quiet confession that beneath the pyramid there are places still unopened hangs in the air like a riddle. For the sober scholar, those words were out of character. They were not the claims of a mystic or a pseudo-historian, but of a man who has seen the stone, measured it, mapped it, realized it does not tell the whole story. If Lehner is right, then what lies below may be more important than what we see above. The unfinished subterranean chamber, the descending passages, the radar anomalies, all suggest the ancients deliberately left something behind, hidden not in the sky, but in the earth. Something to endure until we are ready to find it. Until then, what we hear is only a whisper, the murmur of eternity sealed beneath limestone waiting for us to listen. If tomorrow Egypt were to open a chamber beneath the Great Pyramid, the impact would be seismic. Imagine archaeologists discovering sealed papyrus texts, documents that might describe lost dynasties, forgotten technologies, or catastrophes erased from history. Imagine artifacts showing knowledge of astronomy, medicine, or engineering far beyond what we believed possible in 2500 BC, the implications stretch beyond Egyptology. Religions might be shaken if texts predated known scriptures. Academics could be forced to rewrite timelines stretching back to the dawn of civilization. Global politics would inevitably follow. For whoever controls the secrets of the Great Pyramid controls a narrative that spans humanity itself. This is why some argue discoveries are not pursued. Not because they cannot be, but because their consequences cannot be controlled. Egypt's guardians of antiquity tread carefully, balancing the hunger for knowledge against the weight of responsibility. And in this balancing act, Mark Leonard's confession takes on a new meaning. Perhaps he was not only revealing what he saw, but hinting at why it must remain hidden. The truth may not have been denied to us by accident, but by design. A design as deliberate as the pyramid's very construction. In the end, Mark Leonard's legacy will not be measured only in excavation reports or scholarly maps. It will be measured in the silence he left behind. A silence as vast as the pyramid itself. He gave the world evidence that the builders were human, brilliant, and organized. He demolished the myths of alien architects and slave labor. But in his final confession, he gave something else. The acknowledgement that Egypt's greatest monument still holds its greatest secret. What did he see? A shaft leading further than anyone dared to go? A chamber sealed in anticipation of discovery? Or simply the outline of something he knew he would never be allowed to reveal? The Great Pyramid stands as it always has, patient and impenetrable. And perhaps that is the point. Maybe its builders intended it to be more than a tomb, a message, an eternal challenge. A reminder that some truths must be sought, but never fully known. Before he dies, Mark Leonard has given us that challenge. Whether we ever solve it is now up to us.